NCAA and NAIA resources and guidelines for this webinar this morning. We've had a lot of questions and comments just during COVID-19 and all of the changes that are happening. So we really felt like it was important to cover this information on for both of our student athletes as well as their families, what this looks like for the class of 2020, what this looks like for the class of 2021 and beyond, and other students. So we'll go ahead and get started. Many of you are already really familiar with the Zoom platform, but just a couple of features. You've already used the chat box. You can also feel free to ask direct questions in the Q&A box, and we will make sure throughout the course of the webinar, we will make sure to answer those for you. And if we don't have an answer during the webinar, we always record and we send all of our registrants and everyone that attended live a follow-up email that has lots of great resources, everything that we've covered in the webinar as well, links that we've shared, access to our guest speakers and their contact information. And so everyone that's registered for that webinar will receive that. So we're recording, and we also upload these to our website as well as our YouTube channel. So you can change your audio. Hopefully you can hear me okay and see my slides. You certainly can raise your hand and lower your hand if you'd like, if you have a question, but I will be watching the question and answer box really closely to make sure we answer all of the questions. We also have some things just to discuss with our attendees. We'd like your feedback on some information as well. And so you can use those features through Zoom. And also certainly the question box looks like this. And then you can change your screen size as well. So here's our agenda for this morning. We're going to talk about NCAA as well as NAIA resources and guidelines as well as updates during the changes we've had right now with COVID-19. So we'll do quick introductions with everyone that's joining this morning. Samantha Gonzalez is going to point out some resources and spotlight what we have on NCAA and NAIA within our academy. Glenn Terry is joining us from NCAA. He's got some great information pertinent to your students and their changes and NCAA updates. And then we always usually try to include some best practices from our Texas OnCourse Leader Fellows. So Trisha Feeney-Spain from Capel ISD is going to talk a little bit about NAIA. And we've actually developed, she had so much great information, we actually developed a handout for you on NAIA questions and answers, and we will share that as well. And then we will also save time at the end for open discussion as well as time to answer some very specific questions. So I'll start with just my own introduction. My name is Laura Guggen, and I'm Assistant Director of Program Implementation at Texas OnCourse. I've been here for a couple of years now. And my background is as a college and career coordinator within school districts in Texas, as well as a high school counselor and advisor.
Good morning, I'm Samantha Gonzalez, the Content and Resources Program Manager. I have a background in high school, college, and career advising. And then at Texas OnCourse, I support the maintenance and development of content across all Texas OnCourse resources.
Good morning, I'm Glenn Terry with the NCAA Eligibility Center. I'm the Director of Outreach and Strategic Partnerships. I'm responsible for all 8 million high school domestic student athletes and knowing what they need to know to participate in Division I and Division II athletics while pursuing their bachelor's degree.
Good morning, I'm Trisha Feeney-Spain. I am a Leader Fellow with Texas OnCourse. I am also a high school counselor currently in Capella High School, transitioning to Frisco ISD at Centennial High School next year. In my position as a high school counselor, I work closely with our athletic department, and so it's really important to know about NAIA and NCAA.
Great. Thank you everyone for joining this morning. Just to provide a little bit of background, I know the folks that join our webinars often are very familiar with Texas OnCourse, but if you're just joining us for the first time, a little bit of background on us. Texas OnCourse is a state-funded initiative designed to improve college and career advising across the state of Texas. And we operate out of the University of Texas at Austin, and we work in close collaboration with the Texas Education Agency, the Higher Education Coordinating Board, and also the Workforce Commission. Our ultimate goal is to equip middle and high school students and have them ready for post-secondary success. And we offer free digital curriculum tools as well as educator training through our academy, and access to update information as well as a library of resources. And everything that we've created, all of our resources are available online at texasoncourse.org, and everything is free to all Texas educators, students, as well as their families. So just a quick opener, I wanted to know, we as a team, when we were putting the webinar content together, we definitely thought we would inquire to see what kind of questions you all had. So if you just want to take a minute in the chat box and let us know what questions are you hearing from your students and athletes and their parents. And we'll see if maybe we can get some of those answered this morning. Any questions anyone can think about? And if not, that's okay. I think once we get into some of the information, it will definitely spark some. So thank you all. Will spring semester of classes be counted? Will COVID impact my eligibility? Questions on pass-fail grading? Absolutely. Collaborating with coaches and other counselors. Registration. Questions about online courses. These are great. These are great questions. Thank you so much. District decisions. Great. With that being said, we will keep track of questions even after our webinar and send those out to you if we don't cover them in today's webinar.
So good morning again, this is Samantha, and I'll be highlighting resources from the Academy, specifically about the NAIA. Here's an example of the Texas OnCourse Academy layout and dashboard once the learner has logged in and wants to check their progress and explore our modules. For today's resources being highlighted, we'll focus on the post-secondary pathways content area, which is highlighted here for you to see. Once you've clicked on the post-secondary pathways area, you'll see the badges that you can earn within that content area. The module we'll highlight resources from is located within the admission and application process badge. Within this badge, you'll need to click on number 6 to get to the NCAA and NAIA Eligibility Center's module. You can always locate the resources highlighted in the additional resources section at the end of the module within the Academy or at Texas OnCourse's Pinterest page. The first resource I'll highlight from the NCAA and NAIA Eligibility Center's module is the NAIA Registration Steps PowerPoint presentation. You can download this step-by-step presentation to help students register with the NAIA Eligibility Center, use this presentation during sports night or junior classroom presentations at your campus. The presentation is located within Unit 2 of this module and ready to use. You can share with your coaches as well. The next resource I'll highlight is the NAIA Sports Financial Aid Limits handout. This handout can be used to help explain to your students interested in becoming a college athlete at an NAIA institution how they break down their sports scholarships. Remember, academically gifted students who meet NAIA grade or test score criteria can be exempted from these limits. You can download and print this handout from the Texas OnCourse Academy in Unit 7 of this module. The final resource from the Academy that I'll highlight in today's webinar is the Amateur Status Practice Scenarios. To better understand how students' decisions and actions can affect their amateur status, we've created practice scenarios. These practice scenarios offer unique and realistic scenarios which can help you better understand amateur status. The scenarios are located in Unit 6 of the module. I also wanted to share where you can locate COVID-19 updates for NAIA. The NAIA has a webpage dedicated to providing updates from the NAIA National Office, as well as provide answers to frequently asked questions. The Eligibility Center FAQs page has updates to questions about general eligibility and for entering college freshmen. And now we'll turn it over to Glenn Terry, who will talk about the NCAA.
Thank you, Samantha, and good morning, everyone. We're going to walk through the adjustments with the NCAA and that the NCAA and the Eligibility Center made in response to COVID-19 and the various changes made to ensure the student athletes were able to complete the academic year. Some of the topics that we'll cover are the standard of evaluation, timing, when you'll see changes in students' accounts, submission of academic documents, academic evaluations and what will happen there, subsequent classes for those 2021, 22, and 23 grads. And rather than holding questions at the end of my presentation, what we're going to do is we're going to wait until the end of the presentation to deal with questions via the chat. Hopefully by now you've had an opportunity to receive and review the contents of the FAQ release on April 17th. That was when we initially released the decisions that we're making in response to COVID-19. There are several categories included, the first of which is the standard of evaluation. If you advance one more, here's the QR code that you can get access to the document as I present. But let's get right into it. And if you can't access the QR code, I've also sent the link to the document over in the Zoom webinar chat. First thing we'll talk about is the standard evaluation. Given the unprecedented events that this spring due to COVID-19, the NCAA Eligibility Center partnered with our colleges and universities to identify student-friendly adjustments to the academic certification process. The first of these adjustments is application of the COVID-19 auto waiver. For right now, where we are at, I want to say it's over 31,000 college-bound student athletes. For students with an expected spring or summer 2020 graduation, they will be academically eligible to receive their athletic scholarship, be able to practice and compete in the first year of full-time enrollment if they meet the following criteria. As I said, to date, over 31,000 have benefited from the COVID-19 auto waiver via their preliminary certification. As we enter final certification season this summer, once we receive a final high school transcript, we'll attempt to certify all college-bound student athletes under the Division I and Division II legislated academic standards. Division I being 16 core courses, 10 of those core courses being completed before the start of the 7th semester, with 7 of those core courses being in English, math, or science, with at least a 2.3 GPA and an SAT or ACT sum score that matches their GPA on the sliding scale. If we cannot certify a student athlete by that standard, we will look to certify those student athletes under the COVID-19 auto waiver. For Division I, students must complete 10 core course units, 7 of which must be in English, math, or science by the start of their 7th semester, and have a 2.3 GPA in those courses. For Division II, Students must complete 10 core courses by the start of the 7th semester and have at least a 2.2 GPA in those core courses. Question comes about, what if a student does not meet the criteria for the COVID-19 auto waiver? Let's move to the next slide. In an effort to be more student-friendly, if a student presents 10 core course units prior to the start of the 7th semester and has at least a 2.0 GPA in those courses, they will receive a partial approved waiver providing the benefits of an academic red shirt for Division I or a partial qualifier for Division II, meaning that they will be able to receive their athletic scholarship, and for Division I, practice in their first term. For Division II, they'll be able to receive their scholarship and practice the entire year. For Division I, they'll have to be able to practice the second term, they have to meet some academic requirements on the college campus. Now, if neither set of the COVID-19 auto waiver criteria is met, the student should continue to work towards meeting the legislated Division I or Division II initial eligibility requirements and submit all transcripts, test scores, and proof of graduation to the Eligibility Center. One thing that you see is that we really haven't required test scores for the COVID-19 auto waiver, whether it's for the full auto waiver or the partial auto waiver. Not every student was able to take the SAT or the ACT. If they did, they may have needed to retake the exam to increase their score, or they weren't just able to take the exam. The NCAA and the Eligibility Center recognized that and felt it would be unfair to require a test score for academic certification. But if your student has a test score, please have them submit it. Another question that we've had is for 2021, will those students be required to submit a test score? And right now the answer is yes, but we are in an ever evolving environment. And given the environment and changes may occur, we will evaluate that as time moves on. I'm going to talk a little bit about international students, just because I want to make sure that everybody understands the encompassing side of what goes on around the world. But international students looking to study and compete in Division I and Division II with an expected spring or summer 2020 graduation date, who present their international academic documents, will be eligible to receive their aid, their athletic scholarship, be able to practice and compete in their first year of full-time enrollment if they meet the following criteria. They'll have to complete 10 core course units before the start of their 7th semester. For Division I, they'll have to present a 2.3 core GPA, and for Division II, they'll have to present a 2.2 core GPA. Another question that we've been asked is, how will a student's file status or decision appear in the student's account? For Division I and Division II, the academic status will show the student as a final non-qualifier, but it will also show the student does meet the COVID-19 auto waiver. People are wondering why it will show the student as a non-qualifier. This status indicates that although the NCAA legislated initial eligibility standard was not completely met, and that's why we have to place them as a non-qualifier, because the true standard of our legislation wasn't met. The student is academically eligible to receive an athletic aid or scholarship, practice and compete in their first year of full-time enrollment at a college or university. If you advance the slide, it'll show what the student will see in their account. So it will show them that and say that you are immediately eligible to receive athletics aid, practice, and compete. Contact your institution's compliance department for details. Now I'll shift to what the timing is for all of these changes. So the question is, when will the student's account be updated? This standard will be applied at any time the student's Eligibility Center account is evaluated, whether doing a preliminary certification or a final certification. We've already completed over 31,000 to date, and we began this as of May 1st. If a student with an expected graduation date in spring or summer 2020 have already been evaluated, a retroactive application of these criteria has been applied. But if a student has not been evaluated, what we'll do now is we'll wait for a final high school transcript with proof of graduation and perform this in the final academic certification to determine his or her status. I'll move real quickly to the submission of academic documents now. Overall, we want to complete full academic certifications, and the only way that we can do so is by receiving final high school transcripts with proof of graduation. Given the unique circumstances around the world, you know, some ministries of education and schools are closed. So for those, you know, for those international accounts, if only domestic records are available with an expected, you know, for a student with an expected spring or summer 2020 graduation date, we will ask them to submit those to EC processing at ncaa.org directly from the student's email address. For domestic students, we realize that there are still staff that may be working from home but can access and upload transcripts to the student's initial eligibility account. So what we're going to do is once students have met their graduation requirements, please submit those documents to the Eligibility Center as soon as possible. So another question that we're getting from the high school community is, your school may not have your students' proof of graduation in time. Proof of graduation for the COVID-19 automatic waiver is not required. But in order to complete a full academic certification, we will need a student's final high school transcript. So if you can send those when it becomes available, as soon as they become available to complete their academic record, that would be wonderful. As I said prior, we're going to attempt a full certification once we receive a final high school transcript with proof of graduation. But if the student athlete does not meet the standards for a full certification, we will attempt the certification under the COVID-19 automatic standards. I'll talk a quick minute about academic evaluations. Given the extraordinary and unprecedented circumstances in education moving to an e-learning environment, for 2020 spring and summer terms, we will not require a review of the e-learning environment you encouraged your student athletes to complete for study. Students are encouraged to complete their NCAA approved core courses through the channels of instruction provided or recommended by their school, their district, or their state Department of Education. This policy will apply to students from all grade levels, whether they're freshmen, sophomores, juniors, or graduating seniors who complete distance or e-learning courses in the spring or summer 2020 terms. So what does that mean? If you have students that, and I saw one of the questions on the Zoom webinar chat, can my student take courses through the summer? Yes, they can take courses through the summer. If they're going to end up on your transcript and you're going to give them grade and credit, yes, they can take them. We will not require a review of that e-learning platform that you are utilizing for your students, whether it has been approved or not at this time. However, and one thing that I will say, given the fall right now, given the situation, the way it stands right now, for those students who take e-learning in the fall, we will need to review those courses for the fall, given what we've done for the COVID-19 auto waiver. So those courses for the fall will need to be reviewed, but for the spring and summer terms, they will not need to be reviewed. Next question is, my school is issuing pass-fail grades. How will students' credit be applied? Due to COVID-19, some schools and districts have decided to go to a pass-fail environment. We completely understand that. For NCAA approved courses completed in the spring and summer 2020 that have been issued a grade of pass, the eligibility will apply the credit earned in these courses towards the core course requirement for the student's academic evaluation. We will assign a value of 2.3 for all courses receiving a pass. Usually what we would do is we would give it the lowest passing grade, which was a D. We realized that that would detrimentally affect student athletes. So what we're going to do during this time is we're going to assign a value of 2.3 for students receiving a pass grade. This 2.3 will only be used if it increases the student's core course GPA. If the student's core course GPA would be decreased by using the 2.3 value for past courses, the student's core course GPA will be calculated based only on courses with assigned letter grades from other academic terms. So given an example, if your student has a 2.8 core GPA, and through this semester, you gave all pass grades to that student, your student would continue to keep that 2.3 core GPA, but we would utilize the core courses for the units of credit and apply those towards the student's core course requirements. We will also apply the pass-fail policy to students from all grades. So your freshmen, when they graduate in 2023, they will still receive the pass grades of 2.3 for those, for the spring and summer term 2020. So whether they're freshmen, sophomores, or juniors, we will utilize this pass-fail policy for all students for the spring, summer 2020. For students with an expected spring or summer 2020 graduation date, up to 6 core course units completed after the start of the 7th semester and before full-time enrollment will be used in the student's initial eligibility certification, regardless of whether the student graduated on time or when the core courses are completed. So if they completed them by June 1st, we will use up to 6 core courses completed after the start of their senior year. Or if they had to use some time in the summer term to complete their graduation requirements, we will allow them to do so. Another question is, what about delayed grads and full-time enrollees? For Division I and Division II, expected spring and summer 2020 graduates who delay graduation or full-time enrollment due to COVID-19, they will receive all benefit of policies applicable to those who enroll in fall of 2020 or 21. So whether your student graduates this year, and whether they enroll in the fall or whether they delay full-time enrollment to next fall, to the fall of 2021, they will still receive the benefits of COVID-19 because they are a 2020 grad. Now I'll speak real quickly about subsequent classes. We talked about this a little bit earlier. When it comes to other classes, like I said, at this time and given the 2021 graduates and 22 graduates, we don't anticipate that application of the adjusted standard will extend beyond the summer 2020 graduates. But we will continue to work with the medical community, the education community, and the testing communities, and monitor the situation as it evolves through the summer, the fall, and beyond. Before I end, I want to take the time to thank you for all you've done through these unique times to assist young people and their families in their continued pursuit of a college education, as they hope to participate in the sport that they love. Collectively, in our professions, we're focused on dream fulfillment and creating light for our future generations. Your diligence and your dedication to them makes this possible, and I want to take the time to personally thank you for what you do every day. Should you have questions, concerns, we have a high school dedicated line. We can be reached at 877-622-2321, and our staff is there from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to address all your concerns. We also have a high school newsletter. You can see the QR code where we provide monthly updates to help our students in the registration and certification process. This high school newsletter is for you to kind of keep you up to date. We realize that you guys have a lot on your plate, and we don't like to bog you down with a whole bunch of stuff, but we do like to provide you with a quick update of what's going on. So thank you so much for your time and your attention. And now what I'll do is I'll turn it over to Trisha Feeney Spain. Trisha. Trisha, I think you're muted.
All right. Let me see if I can unmute her. We'll give her 1 second. It looks like she's logging on. And Trisha, when you're ready, just go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry. Hold on 1 second. My other computer crashed in the middle of this.
Oh no. Well, we can hear you fine.
I just switched computers, but I'm sorry, guys.
Don't worry about it. You're all set.
Okay, so I am Trisha Feeney Spain, Leader Fellow with Texas OnCourse, and I'm going to be covering some NAIA for you guys. I'm sorry, I'm rushing around my house trying to find my power cord for my other computer.
Take your time.
My screen went black, so I'm not sure what happened. Okay, so with NAIA, they are typically smaller schools. A lot of them are private. And with NAIA, they tend to have fewer rules and regulations when it comes to eligibility. They have about 77,000 athletes, 250 schools, 21 conferences, and they do about 800 million in scholarships. So with COVID, they're hoping to have a decision by July 1st on when student athletes are going to be back. Student athletes are going to be back on campus. They're hoping to have that by July 1st so that they can kind of help everybody move forward in this process. So they have a great resource on their website for kind of everything related to COVID and eligibility. So that's where a lot of this information came from. As a high school counselor, we were getting lots of questions on how this whole thing was going to impact eligibility and were they going to get decisions and things like that. So that's kind of what this is geared towards. They will be issuing spring decisions. So your athletes are not going to have to worry about that. They will be getting decisions. It may look a little bit different than what it has in the past, but as long as they have identification, they won't have to reapply for their eligibility in the fall. Like I said, updating decisions. They will have spring decisions. There are no exceptions to determination of requirements at this time, but they do have a couple of exceptions for the incoming freshmen. All students competing for the NAIA first time, they will be required to have some sort of decision by the time their sport gets back into session. Okay, sending transcripts. You know, a lot of us aren't on campus right now. We're working remotely from home. We don't have access to anything like that. You should have at least one person on your campus that has access to the NAIA portal. You can upload them from home. You can do it through a third party. So if you use Naviance or anything like that, or you can just send them directly using that documents at naia.org. So they're really being kind of lenient, but I have found it's just really easy to go in and upload it through the portal. If you create an account, you can do it really quick. Eligibility rules. On this index, they have pretty much everything your kids need to know or you need to know in order to work with your student athletes and their parents on what the NAIA requires. Like I said, they are doing constant COVID updates, so you can always check back. And then under this section, you will find the exceptions. So they have this year, the COVID-19, it's the freshman exception. And they, because our SATs and ACTs testing were canceled, a lot of the kids were really kind of panicking with us. And so I'm glad that they put this out there. For incoming freshmen, and an incoming freshman is anybody who has not completed 2 semesters or 3 terms for college. They can use their final high school GPA. It has to be a 2.0. And then as they move into their first season, they have to maintain a cumulative 2.0 at their collegiate GPA as well. So they will waive the SAT or ACT. On who can use this, like I just said, it has to be less than 2 semesters or 3 quarters. And all entering freshmen can use this. So it doesn't matter when they graduated high school. So anybody can use this as long as they're an entering freshman. Class rank exception. This came in this year for their class rank exception. It's still available students without qualifying class rank. And so I went in and did quite a bit of research on this one because this was something new that they established. I believe it was in 2019 and then it took effect in 2020. So a lot of us may not be up to date on this. They can complete 9 hours that are accepted by their NAIA institution prior to the semester that they'll be competing. This includes CLEP, it includes AP, and it includes dual credit. So for instance, if you have a student that graduated this year and they took dual credit, as long as that transcript gets to the NAIA school that they're going to be competing at prior to that fall semester, and they award credit prior to that, then they can use those 9 hours. Now it does have to be a C or higher in the grade, but I was kind of excited that they were looking at those dual credit hours. So I think that's a really good exception for our kids. Yeah. Mine was pretty brief.
Great. No, that's wonderful. I think I want to say just really quickly to Samantha and Glenn and Trisha, thank you all for covering these really important updates on what's in the Academy, NCAA, eligibility. Thank you, Glenn, so much. And thank you, Trisha, for covering NAIA. And I'm going to go ahead and take a minute and just see if we've answered some of the questions that ended up in the chat box, as well as the questions. And then before we close out, I have a couple of web pages to share in terms of the eligibility facts. And we also put a handout with Q&A, and I will put that in the chat box as well. But if you want to take a minute and add any questions, I will take a look at the chat box and see if I think Glenn, you were right. We definitely answered a lot of questions already in the content. So let me look at the chat here. All right. So I'll just call a few out and make sure we clarified those. So the first one I see here is, can we submit transcripts via the district portal if our high schools are closed?
Yes. If your district has an account, absolutely, you can submit transcripts for all of your schools from the district office. That is no problem. I would, before doing so, the hard part is just making sure that your district has a district account, and you can contact our offices at 877-622-2321, and our customer service representatives will be able to answer that question quickly.
Great. Thank you for answering that. I think you got that response, Tracy. And then the next one from Anne is, will recovery credit classes taken online in the spring and summer of 2020 be evaluated? And the second part of that is, will recovery credit classes taken in spring, summer 2020 be accepted?
Great question, Anne. They will be utilized. Like I said, we're under a severe pandemic, and we cannot control what means you choose for education for your students. Some school systems have a plethora of means to offer their students, and some school systems and districts only have one means to utilize for their district or for their school. So whether it's one or many, whatever you are utilizing to educate your students, we are not going to require a review for the spring and summer 2020. As long as they are core courses, and I'm going to throw some core courses out there: Algebra 1, American History, English 1, Spanish, Biology, Physics. As long as they are core courses and are given grade and credit, we will utilize those core courses to certify your student athletes for the spring and summer terms.
Great, thank you, Glenn. I see a question from Denise Bell. Will this recording be posted in OnCourse? And yes, we will post it online. You will also get the link and you can share that with your colleagues as well. The next question from Deanna Chapman: if a student was taking a dual credit class and dropped it due to COVID-19, we have a lot of students that probably did this, and received a W for the course, will they still be eligible?
If they received a withdrawal, we will not use that because they did not receive a grade and credit. However, if they went back and continued that course and received the grade and credit, and it is shown that it was that the course was taken in the spring or summer term of 2020, we would utilize that course.
Great. And then Denise Bell asked, can you please explain again exactly what the class rank exception is? That was a little unclear.
So the class rank, so if a student athlete is ranked in the upper half of the student's high school class, they are eligible for the class rank exception through NAIA. And so if, like, a lot of our schools don't rank beyond the top 10%, or we don't rank at all now, or however we're handling rank at our campuses. So if you can't provide that rank, you can do the exception, which will be the 9 institutional credit hours prior to them starting that term of their sport with a grade of C or higher. And so they're allowing them to use this class rank exception instead of meeting the eligibility requirements. So I don't know if that helps explain it.
Yeah, and I think we also have a question and answer on the handout that we'll provide as well that might elaborate on that a little bit. The next question from Carson is, how do you register for the clearinghouse?
Great question, Carson. Actually, we call it the Eligibility Center now, but registering for the Eligibility Center is very, very easy for students. They can go to www.eligibilitycenter.org. And at that point, they actually have 2 types of accounts that they can register for. One is what we call a profile account. It is a free account. What we did is we wanted to delve into educating the younger students. So we offered a free account just to provide them information as they matriculate from 7th to 8th to 9th to 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. The other is the certification account, and that is for those students that want to compete in Divisions 1 or Division 2. That account, they can register for a certification account. It usually takes them roughly about 30 minutes to complete the registration. We'll ask them about their address, their demographic information, their address, where they, their name and address. We'll ask them about the school that they attend or the schools that they've attended. And we'll also ask them about the sport that they want to compete in. So really, really easy to complete the certification process. And I see your second question, so I'm going to try to answer that one really quick as well. Where do you find the list of all NCAA approved courses? If you go to eligibilitycenter.org, up in the top right-hand corner, you'll see the word high school administrators. If you click that box, it will show you our high school portal. At that point, you can access the list for any school across the country. So the only thing that you need to do is click on list of approved courses and type in your school's name. And at that point, your school's list of approved courses will be shown, and you can print that out.
Great. And then Tabitha was wondering if you could briefly explain again the pass-fail grades.
Sure. For pass-fail grades for the spring in 2020, we will, if a student gets pass grade, we will apply a value of 2.3 instead of the lowest passing grade, which was our policy to utilize the lowest passing grade. Instead, we will utilize the 2.3 value for for those students that receive a pass. But we will only give them the 2.3 if it raises their core GPA. Now, if it doesn't raise their core GPA, and as I said earlier, if they have a 2.8 and they get all passes this past semester, we will allow them to keep their 2.8 and just give them the pass and the credit for the courses that they took this past semester for which they passed. So they would still keep their 2.8, but they would increase the number of core courses that they completed.
Thank you for that clarification, Glenn. I see Deanna's follow-up question, and this makes a lot of sense. So in regards to the recovery classes, you said if it was a core course and if a grade was issued, it would be accepted. What if we only issue pass-fail on recovery courses?
Great question, Deanna. If it's a pass, if you give it a pass, we will apply the pass-fail environment. So if it raises their GPA, we'll give it the 2.3. If it doesn't raise their GPA, we'll give them credit for the course.
Great. And then April, if we are a new school starting the process of establishing our high school with NCAA, how long is the process to get approved? Can students begin accounts while the high school is going through the process?
The process is, and I'm not going to say it's a lengthy process. It is a task-driven process. So we're going to ask for a great amount of information from your school. But yes, students can begin the registration process while your school is going through the process. I like to liken the process of establishing a new school to a tennis match. The ball, once you start the process, we're going to send you information, sending that ball across the net. Then once you send us back the information, we're going to review that information and see if there's anything else that we need. If there's something else that we need, we're going to send that ball back across the net to you. And it's going to continue until we get the information that we can make a full decision on your high school.
Laura, can I jump in here for 1 second?
Sure, please do.
So I will kind of give you guys insight as a high school counselor who has been working with NCAA and NAIA with my student athletes for the last 5 years. And I am the one that goes in and updates our courses every year, I make sure that everything is in the system the way it needs to, so that we don't run into any issues with our graduating seniors with NCAA especially. And so what I do at the beginning of every year, I go through our course guide and I make sure everything aligns. Like we didn't change a name of a course, because that's a big one. Like if it doesn't match exactly, they'll kick it back to you. So as you're starting the new school and you're putting your courses into NCAA, make sure that whatever is on your transcript is also what you're putting into NCAA. Because when they evaluate, and Glenn, you can kind of correct me but as they evaluate the transcript, if it doesn't match what you have in your approved course list, they will kick it back to you. And so as you're starting the new school, just make sure those courses align with what's on your transcript. Because I know as a high school, we don't always call a course the same thing that we put on our transcript. The other thing is, I know some of you guys were kind of asking about courses and you know what counts and core courses, things like that. I will say NCAA has amazing resources out there for counselors, for student athletes, for coaches. And every year I go visit with each sport and I do a presentation, which NCAA provides. But I also hand out the flyers that they provide on Division I and Division II academic requirements. And I start this as early as their freshman year so that they know what they need to be doing each year. And I know somebody asked a question about Edgenuity. We use Edgenuity, and you have to be careful how you use it, because if it is not teacher driven, it won't be approved by NCAA. Our school got caught up in that. And so you need to communicate with NCAA how you're using Edgenuity and make sure that those courses are going to be approved for those kids.
Thanks, Tricia. And then there's a general question here from Carson. What is the difference between NCAA and NAIA, and which one will I know which one I need to utilize?
This is one I think we can tag team on. The difference between NCAA and NAIA are just the colleges and universities that belong to each association. Both associations provide excellent educational institutions. They provide high quality student athlete and competitions. It's just what the student is looking for in the university that they choose to attend.
Great. Thank you for responding to that, Glenn. This has been a fantastic webinar with great information, great participation from everyone. I hope we've answered these questions. We have about 4 minutes left until we close out at 11 a.m. I did want to just acknowledge that I shared a handout that we put together, and I'm going to actually leave the PowerPoint and share what that looks like real briefly. And we will also share that in our email as well.
Before we leave, I'd like to take the time to thank Texas OnCourse for having us. You guys were absolutely excellent to work with, and I truly appreciate you allowing us to come and share with school counselors in the state of Texas. We realize the amount of talent and the amount of brain power that is in the state of Texas. So we just want to take the time to thank you for allowing us to come in and share.
Oh, thank you so much, Glenn. These were really, really important updates, and we will definitely follow up. I'm sharing my screen here. You should be able to see the NAIA and COVID FAQs that we've created for you. We will also send you our slides and the recording. Really quickly, this is that NAIA.org page that we referred to as well. And Glenn, you had added a link to this earlier on in the chat box, but just the FAQs on eligibility, we will add that as well, but that's right here. And so we will also cover our content in the webinar, and we'll follow this up with an email. So thank you all so much. I will, we'll stay on just for another minute or so and answer any final questions.
I want to go ahead and say I went ahead and shared in the chat a link to the class rank exception because it has a lot of verbiage in there, so you guys can read over it too.
Thank you, Tricia. I'm checking back to the question and answer box, and some of these may have been answered so far, but with the time we have left, we'll see if we can get through them. Sarah Walker asked how recruitment works through NCAA.
Great question. Recruitment actually starts with the coach at a particular university. They will either reach out to the high school coach or reach out and send a questionnaire to the student athlete. That really lets the student athlete know that a college or university is interested in them, and that starts the recruiting process. The student would then, and I'm just going to say in most sports, send a questionnaire or information back to the college and program, and that lets them know, that lets the college know that the student is equally as interested in the university as well.
Great, and then I think we addressed this, but any other thoughts on SAT requirements changing?
Right now, no. For 2021, we are going to go back to our legislated Division I and Division II standards. Like I said before, we are monitoring heavily the medical environment, the educational environment, as well as the testing environment, and keeping a firm pulse, a firm finger on the pulse of everything. So should we see things change, we will respond accordingly for those student athletes in the class of 2021. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a link to the Zoom chat of our resources page, our high school portal resources page, has a wealth of information about everything that you can think of. If you wanted to give a presentation to your students, it would be located there. If you wanted to take posters or informational materials and have those printed, you can do so there as well. Just the wealth of information.
That is great. Well, we are at time. We will keep track of all of the questions and the chat box and all of the resources, and we will share these. Many thanks to Texas OnCourse staff. Samantha, thank you for covering our Academy resources, and Glenn Terry from NCAA, and Tricia Feeney Spain from Capel. Good luck, everyone, and have a great day. Thank you so much.